Welcome in. It's the PHNX Cardinals podcast, your premier Arizona Cardinal podcast. Like and subscribe. Leave us a 5-star. Day 4, forevermore of training camp. Arizona Cardinals. I'm Johnny Venerable. He is Brack. We literally just left Glendale at State Farm Stadium to rush over here to provide all of you with the very latest camp takeaways, Brack, and what a crescendo of the day, the cherry on top from hearing from the franchise quarterback, Kyler Murray.
Yeah, it's great and also sad to say.
Yeah.
And I think the best quarterback performance of the afternoon was in the press room by the guy on the physically unable to perform list, because the other guys struggled mightily, and we're not going to sugarcoat it for you at all. The quarterbacks, there were a lot of passes that were not finding receivers' hands, and they were not, attempts that were completions for Colt McCoy. It also includes Clayton Tune, David Blau. I think maybe if you were to break it down, Jeff Driscoll was the only quarterback that's offense, and he was the third team that was run, successfully.
Yeah, and we're going to get into all that. We're going to kick things off with Kyler Murray, who I was very, I think, frank with those of us in the media, discussing everything from how he thinks he's going to fit in this offense, talking about his timeline, his recovery timeline. Let's go ahead and start with that, producer Emma. This was Kyler Murray within the last hour giving the most recent update as it relates to his recovery from a torn ACL.
Question. I have no answer for you, though. I'm taking it one day at a time, like I said. I don't have a timetable or whatever. But, yeah, just taking it one day at a time.
And that's the most we could get from the Cardinals franchise quarterback. It seems like that's maybe what is being, suggested he tell us, and kind of keep. I don't know if it's strategy or if it's just, they don't want to set maybe an expectation from the fan base either, when he could potentially come back. He said the goal was week 1 back in flight plan, but he also added to that, right? I think that he was going to be willing to listen to what the organization and its training staff would suggest and what the doctors would suggest, and that's really what it's going to come down to. Jonathan Gannon said Kyler Murray is going to tell him when to come back, and also I think Kyler Murray is going to listen to the suggestions from the medical professionals and the training professionals of the Arizona Cardinals on when the best time would be to come back. He said this today. We don't have the clip. It's on our social media, that he doesn't want to be a detriment to the team.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to be a detriment to himself. He doesn't want to be a detriment to the team. He's very aware of that, and that's good. It's good to have that self-awareness when you're coming back from the most serious injury of your career.
Yeah, I don't know if Kyler Murray, after what I saw from the quarterbacks today, could be a detriment to this Arizona Cardinal team.
Good
and
point.
I say that a little tongue-in-cheek, but also not really, because I've continued to make the argument. I think Kyler Murray, without the risk of him being re-injured, and you can't put a price on that. If you told me he can go out there, he can play 85% of what he normally is, and there's a guarantee he's not going to re-injure himself, like, you would take that over, unfortunately, what we saw from Colt McCoy. And again, we're going to get to the QB struggles today and what that could mean for the team moving forward throughout the course of this preseason, the offseason, Bo. But, at the end of the day, Kyler Murray is as frank and upfront to everybody as he's been the entirety of the offseason. Like, they do not know when he's going to come back. But I think the mindset is he is attacking this full throttle. He's making it clear he does not want to miss any games. Somebody asked him today, like, Kyler, would you be happy if you missed only half of the season? And Kyler Murray really didn't have a response, kind of scoffed at the answer,
right,
and was basically like, my goal is to come back week 1. Now, is that realistic? And I'm paraphrasing, like, I don't know. He doesn't know.
Well, I'd asked him that. I mean, it was, you made the goal of week 1, with new information, does that remain the goal? And basically what his answer was, I'm still a competitor.
Right.
I'm still going to push, the team, everybody, as far as when I want to get back.
Yeah.
And that's really interesting. I mean, and this is what's going to continue. The speculation is going to remain rampant until, he's either remains on PUP to start the season, or he's IR'd, as far as speculation when he could potentially come back. But Kyler Murray is going to continue to push it as far as when he's going to come back.
Well, I like the comment, too. He said something to the effect of, guys, it's not even August yet. Well, it's August on Tuesday, but I know what he was trying to do, basically saying, like, the season starts the second week of September. We haven't gotten to August yet. And I do actually believe him and the team when they say, well, we're taking this day by day. because these recovery timelines, we covered it on yesterday's show, they're not cyclical in the sense that every day you get better. Like some days you take a step back, some days you take 2 steps forward. And I think there's a part of Kyler Murray that believes that he could see a seismic recovery shift in August that benefits him. And so he's not going to put week 1 completely in doubt. But of course, you know, you've got Ian Rappaport, who's close with the team, that spent time with the team this week, saying, I don't think anybody's expecting Kyler Murray to be ready week 1, but he left it open-ended. And I think that's how the Cardinals are taking this. Like if you set yourself up for definitive timeline and guidelines for Kyler Murray to return, one way or the other, I think you're going to end up with egg on your face. I think you really just have to take these next 7-8 weeks in stride and see how K1 is feeling.
And you have to like that the organization, albeit if they're being as cautious as possible, and you understand that. And if Kyler Murray he understands, you know, how serious this is and what, you know, if he came back too early, how it could set things back, you know, to a much longer timeline. And also, you know, as far as impact his career negatively going forward, like that this organization, if they were to say today on July, 29th, that he was definitively out, I mean, then he would be out.
Yeah.
You don't leave the door open. You don't leave the door open. You don't, you know, it pretty much just puts a period on it. And I think that kind of keeping that door open, you know, giving that, you know, exception to the rule, the Adrian Peterson maybe, who's probably the most freak return from an ACL injury, and Kyler also has the meniscus. Our colleague Howard Balser will remind you of that. You know, it's not just the ACL. So it's exciting, but it's also like, okay, I mean, there's still a lot to be done. There's still a lot to be done. And Zach Ertz outlined what that looks like for himself. And I'm sure it's very similar as far as what Kyler Murray, the hurdles that he's going to have to jump in order to get back onto the playing field for the Cardinals.
Yeah, there's 43 days between now and the Commanders week 1 matchup.
You just Googled that.
I did. And now I'm giving that information to all of you because that's what we provide here. 43 days, so about a month and a half.
What did you actually put in the search
I said,
engine?
how many days between now and September 10th after I looked up what day they played the Commanders? Listen, the analytics, they have nothing on us, right? The research that we put in is impeccable. So Kyler Murray, again, no update is the update. But again, I would agree with Ben. Like the quick smirk said quite a bit. I think Kyler was in good spirits. He had fun with the media like he always has.
Yeah.
And he didn't just touch on the recovery timeline. He also touched on a number of topics, including Bo Brack, really how quickly he feels like he's picking up this offense, albeit on the sideline.
Yeah, he basically said, you know, he didn't feel like he was behind at all. He felt like this was an offense that he despite, you know, playing kind of a similar offense from his freshman year of high school all the way to his 4th year of his NFL career, that he was picking up what Drew Petzing was putting down.
Yeah, and I think we have a clip that Kyler expands on.
Am I excited about it? Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's been great so far. You know, we're actually establishing a run game. I believe we'll be able to run the ball a lot better, which will only be, you know, to our weapon for us to be able to get under center, mix it up, won't be as predictable. And if you can run the ball, it makes everything a lot easier. So.
Yeah, and that was my question. I asked Kyler Murray point blank, like, are you excited to play under center? And he double checked excited. I'm excited.
At the end of that? We won't be as predictable.
Yeah. There was how many indirect or direct shots at Kliff Kingsbury were at this press conference?
I don't know. I mean, I don't think he's out to
indirect.
Right.
Maybe like 5. Maybe like 4 or 5.
Sure. It felt like, you know, there as far as the previous regime, Kyler was answering and kind of clapping back to some of the stuff that's been out there, some of the noise throughout the offseason. Most recently, you know, his former general manager, Steve Keim, you know, really nitpicking some quotes from the flight plan episode.
Yep.
But look, that clip there, like to get back on track, that's exciting. You know, that he's going to embrace this offense having diversity, having balance. And it's not just going to be, hey, we're going to go back out there. And even though he's a quarterback, I'm going to throw the ball 60% of the time. He understands the value, the conflict it creates, being under center and giving the opposing defense a look that could it be a run, and you know the just how lethal it can make a guy like Kyler Murray.
Yeah, I agree with all these comments. Almost everything, according to CBKRA098, almost everything he said reflected poorly on the prior regime. 100%. Even brought up at one point his college coach Lincoln Riley, saying like, and I don't know if we have the clip or not.
We
Bo,
do. We'll hear it later.
Yeah, basically paraphrasing that even though they didn't run the same offense, like just how well he's taken to this offense because of the attention to detail. Ben Cork in the chat, definitely about the details. He was ragging on Kliff and Keim. I think Kyler wants to be coached hard. And that was the biggest indictment of the prior regime. And I think the national media, piles on like Kyler Murray's a diva. He's a prima donna. He doesn't want to be this, that, the other. He doesn't want to study hard. I think Kyler Murray is showing you with his actions and his words now that I want to be challenged. I need to be challenged. I want to take my game to the next level. And then just as far as my question goes, playing under center for the first time, he didn't really play under center in high school, I'm sure to some effect, but it has to be for the first time in 10 years that he's going to play under center. He's excited about that, but then he emphasized the run game. He hasn't had a consistent run game maybe since the second half of his rookie year where Kenyon Drake went off. And then, of course, James Conner 2 years ago when James and Kyler both had Pro Bowl bursts. Like, Kyler Murray is
and there was a lot of pressure on Kyler as well in the run game.
Absolutely. And Kyler is so deadly, to your point, Bo, as a runner when you've got somebody behind him that's a capable running back. And it just gives you a different dynamic to this offense. They were, he said it as much, they were so predictable at times last year. No back, single back, shotgun, 10 personnel, sometimes 5 wide. It's just, it asks too much of Kyler Murray. Not the mental capacity, but the physical capacity of just asking your quarterback, hey, go through 5 reads and no threat of a run game, and you've got an offensive line that's a sieve. I mean, to me, Kyler Murray is excited, I think, to play in an offense that's going to ask him to be a big cog, but not the only cog.
Right. And I think Kyler's excited that there's some adults in the room, and it echoes the comments of the other, faces of this franchise that were left over from the previous regime. We've heard from DJ Humphries. We've heard from Budda Baker. And there's a word that gets thrown around a lot, and it's accountability. And Kyler Murray spoke on what the new Arizona Cardinals kind of definition of accountability is. That's what Kyler had to say.
I mean, I think a lot of it just comes down to the accountability, the communication. Not only that, he knows football. He knows football. He coaches it. Guys that already know football will get even smarter. The guys that may not, be on the same level as some guys have played a lot of years as Zach Ertz, a rookie, you know what I'm saying? Everyone's getting smarter. He's teaching football, you know what I'm saying? He's teaching the scheme. And if you don't understand it, okay, we're in a meeting and he calls you out and you don't get it. Okay, we just know you don't know it. And at this point, we don't need you to know it right now. You know what I'm saying? The season's not here yet. But when the season comes and we're on the field, you got to know it. So I just think, he's a real genuine guy, relates to everybody, and as far as, what he's doing right now, man, I love what he's doing.
I love what he's doing. I don't know if I've ever heard that during the first 4 years of his career. I mean, there was, it wasn't like a just out in front of it, like lack of respect for Kingsbury and his crew, but there was never like him being as complimentary as he's been about his new head coach, Jonathan Gannon, as he's been there. Accountability was just a word that meant nothing to the previous version of the Arizona Cardinals.
No.
And now, as Kyler pointed out there, it's like guys are asked questions in meetings. If they don't know the answer, the coaching staff understands, like, we understand it's not important right now, but it is important that you understand what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
And they hold the players accountable. They're not going to make them write out, the answer to the question on the chalkboard 100 times, but they're going to make sure that everybody knows what they're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. I get some of these comments here. Eddie in the chat, new drinking game. Every time someone from PHNX says national media, take a shot. We take shots at the national media all the time, so I think that's a great game. Jacob Williams, I'm really starting to like JG. His personality is contagious. It's infectious. He addressed
Welcome
the crowd
to the club.
At State Farm Stadium today. Like, he goes from fun-loving guy, which I appreciate, very personable, to hard ass. And like, you can see it, you can sense it. Sometimes we're in the press room and you could sense how intense he is. And I think the best coaches like Bruce Arians could do that, where they could flip a script or flip a switch and just say, hey, I can be your best friend, but also I can get on you when you're not doing things correctly. Does anybody think Kliff Kingsbury had that in him to do that? And again, I don't want to spend too much of this, training camp and preseason comparing Kliff to JG, but I mean, I was telling Bo, like, isn't it crazy? Kliff Kingsbury ran this team with Steve Keim for 4 years. Keim was in charge since 2013. Like, things are different for the first time in a long time, and it's noticeable, and the players can sense that. And the quarterback that came from, albeit, they were in the Big 12, but a blue chip collegiate program with one of the best college football coaches in college football, maybe in the entire football landscape, in Lincoln Riley. Like, Kyler understands and respects coaches who get it, who can articulate it, who can teach, who can develop. You can, if you're an elite at your craft and you see somebody else in your field, you can sniff out people who are fraudulent. You can sniff out people who don't work hard, that are trying to fake it till they make it. It's not sincere. And again, these are all like subtle shots at Kliff Kingsbury and Steve Keim. But Kyler Murray was great when he got to the Cardinals, and the Cardinals that never at any point said, we're going to elevate you past where you're at. It's just carry us, K1. Allow us to latch on to your greatness. We're going to put everything on you. And then when things go south, we're going to point the finger and blame you. And you don't think Kyler Murray realizes what took place and realizes the opportunity now, a clean slate with Jonathan Gannon, people who have embraced him, Drew Petzing, everybody who wants to say, okay, Kyler, we know you can do this. Let's do this. Let's elevate your game from here to here, and let's prove everybody wrong in the process.
Yeah, great. A lot of great points there. A lot of great points in the chat. Brianna saying air raid was working. It was like 10-1, but the defense is adjusted to Cliffy and stayed stagnant. Absolutely. It was that game of chess that the Cardinals' previous coaching staff didn't have the ability to play. Jalen Blair saying the nicest thing K1 ever said about Kingsbury was the props he gave him after game plan against the Rams in Week 4, 2021. Look, there was a lot to like, especially at that point during the Kingsbury era. They kicked the crap out of the Rams, who were, I think, they were both 3-0 teams at that point.
Yep.
And just big turnover that they had in the first half of that, and then ran away with that game, and it kind of put the NFL on notice at the time. And then to Brianna's point, like, it carried on for a couple of weeks, even with Kliff being out with COVID, the team just blowing the doors off the Browns, and maybe we're just fucking better, according to J.J. Watt. And, it led up to that, and then, like every year under Kingsbury, dating back to 2013, even in his Texas Tech days, the opponents caught up. And there was no proper adjustments that were made. And as far as, the accountability, I don't think there was enough or a realistic idea of what that looked like or how to do it to get the team back on track. And I think that this team, it's going to have some tough times, but it's going to have a good foundation of that accountability to fall back on to kind of kickstart itself again.
Jalen in the chat, friend of the program, Lincoln Riley is like the Kyle Shanahan of college football, elite offensive mind that coaches hard. And I think, a lot of the times his teams get better as the year progresses. How many times have they been in the Final Four of the college football playoff? What he did last year with Caleb Williams at USC. Like, you don't think Kyler Murray sees that? You don't think Kyler Murray sees what Jonathan Gannon was able to do in Philadelphia last year? 70 sacks, 17 interceptions, 14 points allowed in the NFC playoffs. Like, Kyler Murray, for the first time, has a coaching staff that I think he believes in and they believe in him. And there's continuity and there's open lines of communication. And the toughest part for Cardinal fans right now is just that anticipation of when is he coming back to just see that relationship really start to grow and blossom on the field, because it's tough right now. If you're out of practice, Kyler Murray's around, he's walking around, he does some light stretching, but he can't participate. Being on PUP, he can't go through the quarterback drills. He can't wear shells, with the helmet and the shoulder pads. It's kind of like he's a little bit of a ghost with what we can see. But I take Gannon and Kyler Murray at face value, and I'm going to tell you right now, like, their relationship, I think, has a very long shelf life, assuming this year that they can put it together.
Who is this guy? Who's sitting next to me? Of course, it's the great Johnny Venerable.
I did shave yesterday because it's 120 degrees outside.
He's making sense today. I mean, I think a lot of people.
No, we'll rip on people here in a second. I got people I want to go after here.
Yeah, no, but it's Johnny Venerable. Of course, if you're looking for Cardinals insight, follow him on Twitter, Threads,
it's me.
Instagram. It's Johnny Venerable. Yeah. Kyler Murray had some other comments off. Obviously, we hit the like button, hearing from your franchise quarterback. It's great. As I said, it's probably the best performance from a Cardinals quarterback today. What else do we have? We got 2 more clips. I know he's talking about kind of the culture and structure change. And then what was the other one? I apologize. Do you remember?
Yeah, I don't. It's been a long day.
Coaching, more just on the coaching staff.
Let's hear from Kyler Murray.
Which one?
Let's hear about the
Russian
coaching
roulette.
staff.
You do whatever you want.
I don't think I don't think it's necessarily the scheme. I just think it's how it's being coached. Coach Riley didn't run this offense, but he coached the shit out of it. He coached it very well to where everybody understood what they were supposed to be doing. If they're doing this, we're doing this. If we get this look, we're going here. It's just the details of everything. Every little detail matters, and I think that's something that we might have. I know we were missing. So now that, okay, cool, we're under center now. We got a new coach. We got a new system. It can be executed the same way. It just has to be. I just think it's the way that he's coaching it, the details of it. Drew's done a great job. We're all in the same room. Hearing it from one mouth. It's just a lot different. It's a lot different.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's why I said I didn't want to miss it. What are areas where you feel like you can be a better leader?
I just think with the things that obviously Coach Gannon, Monty have put in place, structure from top to bottom. It's a lot more detail oriented, attention to detail, and it allows me, the guy that I am, it doesn't come off as how it may have came off in the past, where he's screaming at coaches or whatever. It's not any of that. Everybody's just trying to win. We're all trying to be on the same page. If you mess up this little detail, okay, we'll hold you accountable for it. If it's you miss a block, you miss a throw, you blitz in the wrong gap. It's everyone understands, what that guy was supposed to do. So we're all on the same page. It's being preached to everyone, not just one person. And I think the communication throughout this whole thing has been great. It's been awesome. So everybody knows, what we're all supposed to be doing, and everybody's on the same page.
So we played a couple clips there in a row, and at the beginning of the first one, he was asked about, kind of the scheme, right? And how is he going to go from kind of running the same scheme for as long as he did and then be able to pick this one up. And he credited the coaches, Drew Petzing, Jonathan Gannon, like Lincoln Riley, where it's not the same offense, but Kyler's quote, Coach Riley could coach the shit out of it.
Yep.
And that's what he's getting from his current coaching staff. And, that's a true testament to this new regime it was like, that was the philosophy in Philadelphia. That's what JG really brought with him from Nick Sirianni and crew, is like, they weren't going to split atoms. They weren't going to design the wheel here as far as coaching NFL football. They were going to have things kind of simple, but you were going to know exactly what you needed to do on any given play, and you were going to excel at it. They were going to do what they knew to the best of their capabilities.
Yeah, and I think, listen, you see it on the defensive side now with Isaiah Simmons and Zaven Collins. They're telling these guys, hey, we think your abilities are best suited here. And I think Kyler Murray trusts Jonathan Gannon and Drew Petzing, okay, yeah, I'm going to be under center for the first time in a decade. I trust the system. I trust the plan, right? Yeah. Because, again, he's going to do things differently than Colt McCoy to some degree when Kyler Murray does come back. But I also think there's a little bit of a stigma with K1 that he can only run the shotgun. He probably is aware of that. You're telling me somebody that was drafted in the top 10 of 2 professional sports can't play under center from time to time? Just because he hasn't been asked to do it doesn't mean he can't do it. And I also think, don't discredit the opportunity for him to have an offensive line that, with an emphasis on pass protection. He talked about Paris Johnson Jr. We've got the clip on our social, how bullish he is. Big physical receivers like Michael Wilson. We talked about on yesterday's show, this is a finely tuned machine that he is attempting to come back to. Yeah. Something that is not overly reliant on him to play sandlot backyard football, where it's just running around, throwing the ball, making plays, saving Kliff Kingsbury's ass. That's not this offense. This offense is, we want to get the best version of Kyler Murray, and in the meantime, here's a running game with 30 carries, here's play action, here's dump offs. Yeah. How many times in the Kliff Kingsbury era? This is going to turn into a Kliff Kingsbury bashing session. I did not mean for this to happen, but open, easy throws, right? Yeah. Throws where you've schemed people open. You watch Kyle Shanahan and Brock Purdy operate, and it's Brock Purdy, he made the throw that was there because George Kittle or Deebo Samuel, they're running wide open. We haven't been able to really decipher that happening since Bruce Arians was here. Yeah. That's going to be such a relief for Kyler Murray. It's this play is supposed to go to Zach Pascal or Hollywood Brown, and they're wide open, and guess what? I can hit them in stride.
Yeah, to use maybe music as an analogy, and I might be a poor person to use that analogy. I don't have a musical bone in my body.
That's true. That's true.
As far as, I think that Jonathan Gannon, Drew Petzing, Nick Rallis, the three-headed monster that is the Arizona Cardinals, coaching staff, and NBA was great at this as well, is like he was able to write beautiful music that he could get his team to play to the top level, right? Where I think Kliff Kingsbury was like, hey, just go out there and play jazz. Yeah. You just play jazz. We want to hear jazz. Like Kyler Murray, you're the best jazz musician out there. And go out there and do what you do best. We're going to empower you to do that, but we're not going to help you along. Like, you know, there was a Jonathan Gannon during his press availability today. Somebody asked about, you know, playing within the structure of the scheme, right? And I think that's the best, especially for a guy like Kyler Murray. And I think Mike Vick had this too, like why he was so successful at the beginning of his tenure in Philadelphia is Andy Reid had him playing within an offense. And he was looking, he knew how to go through his progressions and run the plays, obviously. And Patrick Mahomes does this at like just absolute next level, like unbelievable. But, you know, it's within an offense. And then when things break down, that's when you take that elite athleticism and that's when you're making plays. You're not just, that's not the play structure itself.
Right.
It's like you color within these lines. And then when things break down, then you can bust out of that, and that's where you're going to be successful just running the plays and operating at a high level. But then that's when you're going to show you're an elite quarterback by when things really kind of break down and you show off who you are.
Well said. To put a ball on it, Kyler Murray, I think wants to come back, knows he wants to come back as soon as possible. Week 1 is still very much up in the air, and he's not doing a ton on the field that we can see. And
you know, so he's working with Buddy Morris on a daily basis. It's you know, pretty the routine, I'm sure, just gets old, but you know, and I'm sure he's sick of it, but he understands it and he's putting in the time, and that's all you want to hear at this point.
Yep. So from Kyler Murray, it's time to shit on Colt McCoy. So Colt McCoy, listen, in all seriousness, Colt McCoy.
It's a different conversation than we had yesterday because, well, at least, you know, a little bit. Colt McCoy yesterday, and this seems to be, you know, as I think Darren Urban tweeted out yesterday when he noticed and everybody had noticed at State Farm Stadium that Colt McCoy was running with the first team offense. He was dropping back on pass plays, and then he wasn't throwing the football. He just wasn't throwing the ball yesterday. Yeah. And it was one of those, Jonathan Gannon said he's going to have high tempo days and low tempo days. And it really seemed like it was a low tempo day for Colt yesterday, who's back throwing today. And what did we see?
Yeah, also low tempo in terms of a low output from Colt McCoy. That's what I saw, at least, in the fan base that was there for the open practice. I mean, let's turn the clocks back about 4 or 5 months. It's free agency period. And they had an opportunity to go out and get a Jacoby Brissett or Gardner Minshew. And again, if there's one thing that we raised our eyebrows about this regime during this offseason, was like, I understand young players. Let's see what we have. You did not sign Colt McCoy to this contract. You have no allegiance to him that we know of. Like, go and get somebody you're associated with. Jacoby Brissett was under Drew Petzing last year. Jonathan Gannon was in Philadelphia with Gardner Minshew. These are viable guys who had started games. We even had a source like Joshua Dobbs was an option. They were negotiating with him. Monty Ossenford had him in Tennessee. Mobile guy under 30 years old, won games last year. They said, no, we're going to roll with Colt McCoy. And we like what Colt McCoy has. And he's making like, what, $4 to $5 million this year. They drafted Clayton Tune. Colt McCoy was doing color commentary for, what, Canadian football this spring or the USFL or whatever the hell it is. Like, it really does sense. Like, Colt McCoy's probably a year from retirement. So you're going to have Colt McCoy be the bridge guy to Kyler Murray whenever he does come back. And so you have that in your mind, and you're like, well, maybe he'll have a good training camp. Well, 3 days into training camp, he is not throwing because of maintenance on his arm. Okay, you better let it rip on Saturday, Colt. I was looking forward to his performance today. He looked awful. He looked immobile, especially compared to Clayton Tune, who was not perfect, but can move, can roll out of the pocket, can run a little bit. And then Colt McCoy, during team, threw multiple interceptions, was not good. And not like deep throw interceptions, taking a shot, like underneath inaccurate Trey Lance interceptions, right? That's what we got from Colt McCoy today. So I know Colt McCoy's done a lot of good things for this franchise, and you brought up a great point on the drive over here, is that this really does feel like if he struggles, the first riff between this new regime, Gannon and Ossenford, who have gotten an immense benefit of the doubt, and they deserve it, and the fan base. Being subjected to what we saw today to start the season, unacceptable. Yeah. Do better. And maybe they will. Maybe he'll turn it around. He could. Or maybe they add a quarterback. if you're in attendance today, what you saw from him and the rest of the quarterbacks, that played into the narrative of this team being the worst team in the NFL.
Cardinals update. That was a Johnny Heimer rant right there. That was an absolute bomb right there, going after the
I want this team to do well.
Quarterback position. That was on the heels of Johnny. You had the Cillian Murphy haircut earlier in the chat, which is pretty spot on. I also like that they called you the best friend from Boy Meets World.
Sean Hunter.
All just elite chat messages left here. You guys are crushing it. Hit that like button for just everybody in the zone today outside of the Cardinals quarterback crew. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this was not for it to kind of be the welcome back Saturday.
Yeah.
And then to kind of ease the Arizona Cardinals fan base on Colt McCoy at 37 years old, having to take an entire practice off and maybe potentially more going forward from throwing the football. This did not do it. I mean, we're going to show you some highlights at some point during the show, and you'll see some throws, especially one that was picked off by Marco Wilson, where it's just, I would say, it's just not an NFL caliber throw. It's just not. It
looked like somebody who's retired throwing the football.
Yeah.
Looked like somebody in their backyard with their kids.
And this league this is why people love the NFL. It's so tough. And if you're not 100% into it, and I don't think like Colt's not 100% into it, but like coming off of last year, looking, just understanding where he is in his life, having as large of a family as he has, like I think you can't run from that. I think it's something that's very realistic, and it's like this game. If you're not just 100% in, and also if you're not up there 100% physically, it's why Father Time's undefeated. It's so tough. And the way the Cardinals approach the quarterback position this offseason, it is the biggest kind of indictment on the current regime.
Unless they have something planned. I mean, like, I get the excitement for Clayton Tune. I think Clayton Tune's going to make this roster, and I think he's earned it kind of by default because the rest of the quarterback group is not great. Blau and Driscoll are what they are. They should not be on active rosters around the NFL unless you're openly trying to maybe lose games or you're transitioning out of something like the Cardinals were last year with David Blau.
Yeah.
Like Jeff Driscoll and David Blau should not be on the active roster. Clayton Tune, he made a nice rollout. You'll see it later to Michael Wilson on the run. He can sling the ball. Saul Bookman, the GM, I'm going to tune this out. These guys are backups for a reason. They are backups, but Colt McCoy's not. I'm treating Colt McCoy like the starting quarterback until Kyler Murray comes back.
What did you see from Clayton Tune today?
Inaccurate.
Yeah, but he did not have a good day.
But Clayton Tune's has the expectation of running with the ones though. Look, remember what I told you, like, to start this week when our training camp preview started, that I got some info. Like, they like Colt, but like this quarterback room is open and everything's on the table. This at no point has Jonathan Gannon said Colt McCoy is QB1. Now he's being treated like QB1 right now, but like you can't feel good. Austin Ford was there.
No, you shouldn't feel comfortable at like the quarterback position and it being a question mark. That is as dangerous as it gets in the NFL.
Lose games badly.
Here's your options. 37-year-old Colt McCoy who struggled mightily today.
It was bad.
Who didn't throw yesterday. Who struggled in 2022, went 1-2 as the starter, right? And then you look at a 5th-round rookie who it's not. I mean, you get concerned when it's like C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young, Anthony Richardson, top tier picks, right? And you're staring down the potential of starting a 5th rounder out of Houston week 1.
I think Tune looks better than I thought, though, coming out of the draft. He's bigger than I thought. And he's much more mobile. But I think he deserves to be on the roster. He should not start week 1.
Okay. And I feel the same way. I do. I think that if they can play their cards right, Clayton Tune
he's
can
got
be
some Drew Stanton in him.
He can be the backup quarterback of the future for the Arizona Cardinals.
100%.
And when you're paying a quarterback like you're going to pay Kyler Murray, that's very valuable. He's got the skill set you like, and he's going to probably at some point in his career, somebody's going to view him and say, hey, he could be a starter.
Yeah.
But right now, and especially after today's practice, there was throws that just weren't on the mark outside of the Michael Wilson that you mentioned where he rolled out, and that's great. It's like my golf game. It's like you got just a couple shots in the bag that have you keep you coming back. Am I a good golfer? No. Am I ready for the PGA? Absolutely not. And I think that's Clayton Tune. And then you look at what else is there? You've got David Blau and Jeff Driscoll, who are 1-16 as starters in this league.
I'm sorry, what?
That's 17 starts between the two of them.
Okay.
They're a combined 1-16.
Sly in the chat, start the guy that guarantees the number 1 pick next year. That's everybody but Kyler Murray, I think. I mean, I'm being frank, and our GM Saul Bookman doubled down on it. Colt McCoy is good for 1 to 2 games this season, that's all. And I think I agree with that.
That's the quintessential backup.
Yeah, and I think if Colt McCoy was guaranteed to start the opener, and then week 2 against the Giants, and Kyler Murray came back week 3, or even week 4, I wouldn't be freaking out right now. But if there's even an inkling that Kyler Murray is going to miss 4 to 6 weeks, and we have to watch the Colt McCoy I saw today for a month and a half, the Cardinals will not win those games.
If we see the Colt McCoy we saw today, he doesn't make it through he doesn't make it to the second half.
Clayton Tune will be
Washington
in the second
game.
Yep, Clayton Tune will be in the second half. And see, that's the biggest indictment. Is just you're running a new offense, right? And you got to be able to make plays on the fly when things break down. Saul, when things break down, like Colt McCoy, his best attribute should be not turning the ball over, making the throws that are there to be made, because he gives you no upside with his mobility and his arm strength. Well, guess what he didn't do today? He didn't take care of the football, right? And he missed open throws. So if you're not doing the things you were signed to do, and I don't want to hear this bullshit, well, it's a new offense and it's just the start of training camp. No. I watched this team wet the bed and sleepwalk during training camp last year and not be prepared. I don't want to hear about, let's take our time. I will give grace to guys like Zaven Collins and Isaiah Simmons that are playing brand new positions. And if they struggle week 1, I hope it looks different by week 8. The quarterback situation, you have no excuse. Like, if Colt McCoy struggles and he's been your guy for 6 months, that's an indictment on Monty Ossenford and Jonathan Gannon. And they will have to eat that big bag of shit if that's the case. If he plays well, I'll give him immense credit. And so I told somebody on the sideline today, like, I don't know why this is the plan, but I will give them the benefit of the doubt until week 1. But week 1, you rip that Band-Aid off and he plays like he played today, then everybody in the national media, take a drink, is going to say, they're the Cardinals that we expected to be terrible. And you know who doesn't want to hear that? Kyler Murray, Budda Baker, Hollywood Brown, right? Paris Johnson Jr. How about giving your team a little bit of hope that you can hand the baton and pass that bridge to K1 whenever he does come back? You will lose the locker room to some effect if you start the season 0-6 and it's Colt McCoy out there. It's not going to be good.
Who are you sharing antidotes with on the sideline besides me? Feel slighted.
Your boy Tyler Drake, probably.
Probably your boy Tyler Drake of AZ Sports.
My expectations are, don't be an old 37-year-old. Don't start an old 37-year-old in 6 games.
Look, we talk about this team when we look at what the betting sites are saying. BetMGM has their sportsbook has the Cardinals at 4.5. Their win total, right? And anytime Johnny or myself are talking on national radio or whatever, and people are saying, hey, should you take the over or the under? The one thing that's going to absolutely put them as an under 4.5 win team is poor quarterback play. I mean, it's just
what got them the first pick in 2018.
If they're going to surprise, and I think that the rest of the roster has the ability to get a unique production out of unknown spots for the most part. At the defensive line, middle linebacker spot, cornerbacks, all the way to the back end of the defense is pretty much what you're going to get, and then the offensive line everywhere else. It seems like it's in a position to where it could surprise everywhere but the most important spot in sports. That's quarterback.
There's some really good comments here in the chat I want to get to. So Dylan Richards in the chat. Let me see if I can pull this up because I can't see it on our screen here. Dylan in the chat. Watch Colt retire in the preseason. He looked retired today. And I think that if they claim somebody, Dylan, to be the starter, I think that's a possibility. Because you
have to fit some criteria, right? I mean, it's not going to be, Bryce Perkins, Dylan. He has
if they sign Teddy Bridgewater
Jalen
out of nowhere,
saying Carson, like there's nothing there. Like there's no continuity between like Carson's never worked with Drew Petzing.
If Joshua Dobbs is cut by Tennessee,
that's what I'm saying. Like the criteria, it's very minuscule as far as who would fit, and who you could pick up.
So they paint themselves into a corner. Another really good question. I can't remember who said it. What if they start the season 0-6, 0-7? Do you bring Kyler back? Eddie says that. that's a very good question, and that's a question they don't want to have to answer, because Kyler will want to come back, and I think the team will want to play him, but you also have to speak the mind of, well, Caleb Williams is 10 games away, and that's a guarantee.
I just don't. I think that there's going to be too much of an uprising from the locker room and the coaching staff to the front office in order to pounding the table for Kyler to get back in there and for them to stop the bleeding.
Before it got to 6-7 games, you think?
No, I mean, as far as if the timetable just is he's coming back week 7 and you're 0-6 and the offensive line has been spotty or whatever, but still the leaders of your team are not going to accept, hey, well, we're not just going to play him because we're looking at this quarterback at a USC.
No, I think you should play Kyler Murray.
Yeah, I just don't think that Monty Ossenfort can fend off, and especially people that he respects their opinions. Jonathan Gannon, I don't think he's not going to settle for that.
They're going to have to answer a lot of questions, though, as it relates to if they start 0-5, 0-6, why did you think this was the best option to go with Colt McCoy? Like, what did you really believe he gave you the best chance to win? Saw in the chat, no way you don't play Kyler. They could go 0-9. They will still play Kyler. That's a horrible message. And again, I think Kyler Murray is going to come back sooner rather than later. But if Colt McCoy and you go over with Colt McCoy and it looks ugly for 6 weeks, everybody besides the Cardinals, let's just say that, will be talking about Caleb Williams, and the national media and the narrative will be, just let Kyler, according to Slide, take a vacation, get the number 1 pick.
Yeah. I don't think Colt's walking away for the money. I think that's maybe one of the main driving forces.
And again, it's like, we're not anti-Colt McCoy, the person.
No, here's what I'll say about Colt, and I think it's more of a level-headed opinion. As far as
we're not known for that here.
I don't want to the practice today was bad. I don't think anybody could deny it. And on being on the heels of him not throwing. But then the previous practice, he looked good. And it's kind of in line with where he was last year, and it's kind of in line with where he is. Now, I'm not gonna hide from the fact that it's part of it as well. Like, if Colt McCoy, the wear and tear of camp on his body through 4 days is too much, that's very concerning. But I still do have the belief that when he's fresh, especially week 1, that he is fully capable of running this offense.
Against the Commanders. Even if that looks like 10 to 12 pass attempts. Because after today, it's like, how many times can James Conner get the ball week 1? Mike A in the chat, I agree with this. K1 is going to want to miss the least amount of time possible. He said as much today to get back at all the naysayers this offseason and raise his value back to what it once was. He's been paid. He's got a statue outside of Norman, Oklahoma, at the University of Oklahoma. Like, he's got a Heisman Trophy. He wants to be able to prove people wrong and have the NFL success that he was projected to have when he was the first overall pick. I think that's what drives him. And I think he wants to come back and play hard for his teammates. I think he's going to relish the opportunity to be a leader on this team for young guys. He said as much, like Paris Johnson Jr. and Michael Wilson. Just watching practice today, you just can't think to yourself harder or faster, get K1 back here, because they are so limited without him right now. The offense... everybody wants to talk about, well, the defense is going to struggle. They have no pass rush. They have no defensive tackles. You have bad defensive line play in conjunction with bad quarterback play, you're getting the number 1 pick. You're the worst team in the NFL. That's what they had in 2018 with Josh Rosen and Sam Bradford. It's the easiest way to lose games in the NFL because you will get scored on early and often, and then you're going to have to turn around, and you're going to rely on Colt McCoy. And it's frustrating. I think he will play better than he did today. But I'm going to tell you right now, it was not fun seeing him not throw yesterday and then turn around and look like this today.
And Saul, that's my point. Like, 3 days, like, he'll have his good day when he's fresh, and then when, the reality of being 37 years old and going through the wear and tear that he did, like, that's just what you're going to get from Colt McCoy. And that's unfortunately, like, the main point of this is, like, that's how they approach the quarterback position. I think that people can see that it is flawed. I don't know if naive is the right word, because maybe they just felt like, okay, that's what we wanted. We think Colt was our best option. And
yeah. And listen, somebody, AZ Heat 85, we're usually very optimistic. I'm optimistic for the season still. But
we have some plays from practice you can see for yourself.
You
can
part of the
see
reason
if you want to be optimistic about that, go ahead.
But part of the reason I'm so frustrated is because, like this young thoroughbred right here, they have playmakers. Look at this kid out of Stanford, Michael Wilson, number 14. I like the receiving core. You got to be able. I like the offensive line. I think the tackles are the deepest they've had in 20 years. You got to. If you have bad quarterback play, it just derails everything.
That was a good play by Jalen Thompson, knocking the ball loose from Rondell Moore. A bunch of plays here with Colt McCoy and got Michael Wilson on the outside here. This is going to be a good play from Marco Wilson, who kind of knocks the ball out of the hands of Michael Wilson.
Great
there
practice.
Yeah, Marco Wilson. I mean, when we talk about want to be optimistic, there's Monty Ossenfort watching this play happen right in front of him. Zach Pascal's had a solid camp. This is
it's our boy Michael Wilson from Clayton Tune. This is what Tune can do. Rolled out.
He's going to go off screen here. So the camera's going to follow Michael Wilson, and he's going to improvise and get open for his boy and make this big play on a linebacker and kind of takes advantage of the mismatch there. This is the pick we're talking about.
Chris Barnes tipped off, inaccurate, dump off pass from McCoy, and then he comes right back.
This is the really bad throw. So watch Rondell Moore go up against Marco Wilson.
That's a duck right
for
there.
The picking.
Quack, quack, quack.
Yeah.
That's a duck.
But lots of good things to see. Marco Wilson.
They have good players.
The Wilson twins, Wilson Phillips out there, making big plays.
The triplets. Let's talk about some good.
Okay.
Because everybody's listen. Colt McCoy, you're on the clock. I was willing to give you the benefit of the doubt. Not after the last 2 days. You're on this show's watch list right now. Everybody should be.
He gets a day off tomorrow.
Yeah,
a full day off.
Oh, how many days off for Colt McCoy can we have? It's just you're gonna have a day off and then you're gonna play 6 games. Agent 47. Ooh, really bad. It was bad. They have good young players, so let's talk about them. So the secondary is interesting, Bo, because I think a lot of people just assumed after they re-signed Antonio Hamilton this offseason, cornerback room set. Well, hang on a second, because here's their starting secondary. I tweeted it. Of course, Budda Baker. Isaiah Simmons is playing high free safety. Jalen Thompson is playing slot corner. The 2 outside corners are Marco Wilson and Christian Matthew, who's had a really nice camp to start. Size, athleticism, length. The common theme, and I told you this on the sideline today, of this camp, at least from my perspective, is long, big, athletic, young. It's not old, slow, short, undersized. Who does that sound like the last couple of years? So they may lose games, for better or worse. They're going to play their best athletes, and they're going to give their young player. Christian Matthew played what kind of college football? Where did he play at?
He was at Valdosta State, I believe.
He was a 6th-round pick last year. Got a cup of coffee last year under Vance Joseph. Jonathan Gannon's identified him, and you know what? He's playing really well. He broke up a pass in front of Michael Wilson today. You mentioned to me, like Antonio Hamilton, he's one of those guys from the prior regime. It's just like, I don't know if this is going to work anymore.
Look, yeah, Antonio Hamilton at this time last year was excelling in camp. He was one of the names to watch, along with Greg Dortch and a few other guys that were standing out in Camp Country Club. And I think that Christian Matthew absolutely is taking advantage of an opportunity. He great size. What is he, 6'4"?
Yeah, it's like, okay, I'm not saying it's this. It's like the Legion of Boom in terms of their size. Like everybody wants to compare Simmons to Cam Chancellor. You have Budda, which is Earl Thomas.
Can we stop? Let's not stop. You need to stop, please. I can't have this. I can't have this be out there anywhere and be said in public.
People say I'm too negative, so now I'm going to say this is the Legion of Boom 2.0. Jonathan Gannon is a defensive back savant.
But I think Christian Matthew is a good placeholder until Garrett Williams becomes fully healthy.
I think they're all going to play.
Yeah.
The secondary is fine.
I like the pieces they have on their side. I do. I love the safety position. We've seen Jalen Thompson. He's creeping up now, and he's playing slot corner. I think that's a better fit for JT than slot corner for Isaiah Simmons. And Budda's Budda. And then you've got the linebackers. Barnes was making play. He made 2 big plays today, including the pick. I think you really love I love what JG said today about Kazir White. Really kind of taking that leadership role, plays with the violence that he played with in Philly. And then you got to figure out, is it Barnes? Is it Josh Woods that's going to play next to him? Is it a rookie like Owen Papo? A lot of things kind of coming up for this defense. This defense early on showing that it's not just a bunch of unknowns. I think we'll see what the defensive line can do, and that's really going to show itself in the preseason, and then we'll see what this pass rush, if they can get, the production that we're a bit bullish on, with Cameron Thomas and Zaven Collins and Myjai Ujulari when he gets healthy.
Brianna in the chat, is there any other training camp coverage? No, it's literally just us, and that's all you need. So just follow us on all the respective platforms. We'll do our best to provide the insight and the highlights that you guys want to see, because we're just an extension of the fans here at PHNX Cardinals. So you guys we always say this, drive
all we
the
got.
show. This man is on no sleep. He hasn't seen his family in a week and a half. But no,
if you see them, tell them I love you. I love you guys.
Listen, I'm having a lot of fun watching this team because, number one, they're having fun and they're young and enthusiastic and they're playing the draft picks. And I talked to somebody from the Cardinals today, and we were on the same page. It's very much like, I'm not gonna tell you who it was. It was very much of the mindset they had some good teams under Kliff Kingsbury, but you always felt like, is there a shelf life here? Because these are veterans, these are Band-Aid players, all the Rodney Hudsons of the world. It's like they're playing Michael Wilson and Paris Johnson Jr. to be starters this year and for the next 10 years, best case scenario, right?
Yeah.
That's what you're hoping to get. You're hoping when B.J. Ojulari and Garrett Williams come back, slide them into the lineup. Let them have an opportunity, right? Even the guys from last year's draft class. I know somebody asked if Trey McBride was hurt. He's got a little bit of a nick. Jonathan Gannon said, I'm going to say Kliff again. Jonathan Gannon said he's got a little bit of a nick. They've got him on a timeline. Nothing to worry about, but Trey is going to be featured, right? Cameron Thomas is a starter on their defensive line. The young players are going to get the benefit of the doubt, like Christian Matthews, as I just mentioned. So,
well, Jalen's comment here, he's joking. I know that. Noah Tagai to us. He nearly made a great play in the back of the end zone. My co-host had it wrong. It was not a touchdown.
I had the touchdown.
Upon further review, I had the other angle. He did not get in on a diving catch. But look, that's usually he was playing in Trey McBride's spot. That Trey McBride probably pulls that catch down.
Their tight ends are pretty good. I listen, there are two positions, count them two, that they got problems at. And the two I'm talking about.
Defensive line and quarterback.
That's right. They're D tackles. I looked at him today and I pointed at him. Bo was standing right next to him. I don't know about you guys. I don't know about you, Rashad Lawrence and Lecky Fotu, and I don't know the rest of you. You guys are new.
And they're like, "Who's this guy with the Oppenheimer haircut?
Can we throw him out of the building?" It just.
Can we throw Ryder Strong out of the building?
But here's what I'll say: they can go out and claim a D tackle or two, and I trust Jonathan Gannon and Nick Rallis to put those guys in a good position to succeed. As Eddie in the chat says, Colt McCoy's Madden rating is 63, and that's the end all be all.
I think he's better than that. I do. I think he's better. Remember when we crushed the media outlet that said he was the 30th ranked backup in the league?
I think
he's he's the quintessential backup.
I think we're underestimating and we're forgetting our feelings after the end of last year when you and I went on the show and said it wouldn't be a surprise if Colt McCoy retired. And then he kind of did, but he kind of didn't, right? And now he's back and he's going to start a quarter of the season maybe for this team. To me, that's unacceptable. I don't accept it. I won't accept it because what I saw today is going to lead them to lose some games. We're pretty positive on this show because I want to see Michael Wilson go for 8 for 125. He can't do that with Colt McCoy. I don't think, at least not with what I saw today. They're going to be 12 guys in the box when Colt McCoy's a quarterback, when he looks like what he did today. So, Sly in the chat. Johnny, you going to get highlights, maybe some frosted tips? Not since the 6th grade, my friend, where I double dipped twice with the frosted tips.
Did you?
Yeah, I did.
Of course I did. Got the cap on?
Yeah. And then you gel them up, Do you ever do that?
Yeah.
And then when you wouldn't gel it, it would look like a leopard print.
We don't want to lose an audience here, though. As far as the Jonathan Taylor, he has reportedly requested a trade from the
bring him over. Let's get him.
Well, let me ask you that.
No, I don't. This franchise under this regime they don't value running backs. They're going to draft a back next year.
In order to you have to trade assets, draft capital, and then you'd have to pay him. And those are two things that I don't think they're in business of doing right now.
Nope. They're going to draft him back next year early, and they're going to play him hard for 5 years or 4 years, and then they're going to move on. This is a Patriot mentality because Austin Ford is a Patriot disciple. They're not going to pay or trade for Jonathan Taylor. I am surprised, though. That's a good transition to what's going on with the running back group. And until you watch it, Keontae Ingram's having a nice camp. So the way it's going to set up right now, and I tweeted this out, I don't think this is going to change, barring injury. James Conner is your number one back. That's unquestioned. And then Keontae Ingram is the next up in line, especially on like first and second down. Now, he can catch the football a little bit, but like if James Conner went down, it would be Keontae Ingram. Mm-hmm. And then Corey Clement, who's had a cup of coffee here, was in Philadelphia, good special teamer, I think can be a pass protecting back in shotgun on third down and catch the ball out of the backfield. They're all big. They're all stout. There is no Chase Edmonds, Eno Benjamin, LaRod Stevens-Howling to this group. Like, there's no undersized back.
Yeah, I mean, Amari Dermacado is a little undersized.
I mean, he's 5'9", but he's thick. He's got big legs. The people who are going to play are big. They're 6 foot, 5'11", 5'10", and they're thick, and they want to run in between the tackles. So to me, it's like this is who the running back group is from now until somebody goes down.
Haven't seen a whole lot of Dermacado to answer Jalen Blair's question. I mean, you got the first team, it's James Conner. You got the second team, it's Keontae Ingram. I think Tyson Williams might be running. Well, you mentioned Clement, and then Tyson Williams is running with the third team and fourth team. So, and then you only get a little bit of Dermacado. So, it's the running back room is really interesting. That they only have 5 in camp. They added it seemed like a pass rusher today, and dropped the corner from the roster. We'll see if that's something that they eventually at the end of or before the end of camp that they address the running back.
They have a type on this roster, and it's big and physical, right? They don't sign undersized players anymore. They don't prioritize those players. And this is not a shot at Kyler Murray. I'm talking about the Rondells of the world, the Andy Isabellas of the world. They have a type. They can't deny it. Based on what they've brought in, like the Zach Pascals, they want to be big and physical, especially on offense. They want guys that have length, that are versatile, but then can also get ugly in the trenches with this team. This is one of the biggest offensive lines they've had the past half decade plus. Their tight ends are big. So, I mean, are they going to be the most talented group? No, I think most people would scoff at the idea of an opening day roster that saw Zach Pascal and Michael Wilson starting. But you watch them in camp. I mean, like, these are guys that are going to be meat and potatoes, 7 to 12 yards depth on their routes, catch the ball, and try to get yak up the field. This is not Kliff Kingsbury's offense where you got a bunch of undersized guys, who can run 4-4, and let's try to hit the big play, or let's try to do horizontal screens that were never there.
Yeah, it's not the non-Power 5 school undersized type like Steve Keim had.
No, those days are over. Now we play in big boy college football with players you've known and heard of at premium positions. That, hey, guess what? I said this yesterday. I'm going to say it every day. Paris Johnson Jr. doesn't look like a rookie. Like, you forget he's out there because he doesn't struggle. He's with the ones, and he's gonna manhandle people. We bashed on the offense because of Colt McCoy, but I told you this when we were walking out today. When they put pads on, I think the offensive line is going to handle the defensive line. I think they're going to push.
That'll help quarterback play.
I think they're going to push them around. The tackle play for the Cardinals, I think, is going to be elite this year. The interior, they'll figure it out, but the defensive tackle for me is just, at the end of the day, not good enough. They're just not good enough.
Gravity asking about because you're white. How's he looking out there? He's looking solid. It's somebody. He's one of Jonathan Gannon early in his tenure as Arizona Cardinals head coach. He's one of his most trustworthy players right now because he's a guy that is bringing experience in his defense, working along with defensive coordinator Nick Rollis and kind of being that coach on the field. He's going to continue to wear the green dot. It'd be tough for. I don't envision him giving that up. I think he's going to be a guy that rarely leaves the field, and he's looking solid. We had some other questions about some other players out there for the Arizona Cardinals. What was the other question? I missed it. All right. We'll get into Josh Jones. DJ Humphries he's locked in at the left tackle spot. I don't think it's a competition right now.
Gannon told us they were going to mix and match on the offensive line. as camp progresses, but I think that that's more so for left guard and center. Kelvin Beachum has not taken one snap over Paris Johnson Jr. and Josh Jones. I mean, we were talking to our friend Jess Root from Cards Wire today, who we've had on the show, and he said he would be surprised if they kept 4 tackles. Now, I think it would be smart to do that unless the team gave you something substantial, but I think if you're looking for an area where they might deal for another position or a draft pick, it would be, I mean, if Kelvin Beachum wants to go start somewhere, you could accommodate that. I think Josh Jones, to me, though, is too valuable. I would hang on to him because of DJ Humphries' injury history. But, I mean, DJ Humphries is having a nice camp so far. Can he stay healthy? That's the biggest question. And then Paris Johnson Jr. is, everybody's favorite. He's my favorite, at least.
Yeah. Great potential swing tackle. Josh Jones has a lot to prove. He'll get the opportunity. I mean, this game is so tough. The second linebacker position, Dylan Richards asking about it. The competition, absolutely. Who's going to play with Kazir White when they've got 2 kind of the Mike and the Will linebackers on the field? Right now, it feels like it's Josh Woods. We mentioned how good Chris Barnes was today. So things looking good for the Arizona Cardinals there. It's a good, healthy competition. Chris Barnes, look at the stats. I mean, he's a year removed from being pretty productive in Green Bay. He spent some time for the Packers and played a pretty solid role for them in their defense.
Only 25.
Yeah.
You can talk yourself into a lot with this roster. I know people are skeptical. To me, it's like, what happens if Isaiah Simmons turns it on? What happens if Zaven Collins puts it all together at pass rusher? He's the starter. He and Cameron Thomas. I think patience is needed. And maybe that's the thing that they're trying to emphasize is with Colt McCoy especially. Let's be patient. But at least with these young players that are under 20 and are motivated and have a head coach that can teach and develop, like that gets me fired up because we do have a lot of talent and unknown talent on this roster. We saw it with guys who, even Keim, I'll give him credit, who they drafted that they didn't realize that talent and they go somewhere else and they flourish, like a Christian Kirk. Christian Kirk should have been playing slot receiver since the time he got here. They fudged around, and he had his best year not here. Hassan Reddick fits that build. Byron Murphy, Zach Allen, all these guys that go and play well elsewhere or get big contracts elsewhere. The Cardinals are not in the business of doing that anymore, and I think if you can't succeed under Jonathan Gannon defensively, I don't know if you're succeeding anywhere.
Yeah, and I think that they're approaching the rookie class correctly. It really does. Like the guys that it's not too big for are seeing first team reps in Paris Johnson Jr. and Michael Wilson. And then you see that they're putting the other guys behind that in the next tier on the second team. You're seeing John Gaines run the second team center. You're seeing Clayton Tune be the second team quarterback. You're seeing Owen Papo play with the second and the third team. They're not putting too much pressure on these guys to outperform expectations. I think that, Wilson and, obviously Paris Johnson Jr. and maybe BJ Ojulari, and we'll see what happens with Garrett Williams when he comes back. But, so far it's Johnson Jr. and Wilson who are really going to look and vie for playing time early. The rest of the guys are going to earn it, and they're going to earn it by just doing their job and getting acclimated to the NFL level. The rest will kind of follow suit.
Josh Burleson in the chat. I mean, my concern is the cornerback situation. Marco Wilson saying he'd throw the shoe again if given the opportunity. I need a better CB1.
I kind of like that, actually, though.
I think from what I saw today, if Marco Wilson keeps this up throughout camp, I think people need to be prepared for hopefully a great year by the kid and also being extended. I think he's been underutilized. I think he was overshadowed by Byron Murphy, and I think he played better, frankly, than Byron did at times last year. And I think he's really effing talented. He would have been a top 50 draft pick had he not thrown the shoe. So I'm actually happy he threw the shoe because it made him an Arizona Cardinal, one of Keim's best moves. He traded up. So he's got great ball skills. He's a great kid. He's humble. And again, like, if you're a DB and you're playing under this head coach, you're going to kick ass. There are going to be parts of this roster that struggle, but I think the DBs are all going to play well.
Marco kind of he's not going to dwell on one of the worst moments that cost him a significant amount of money early in his NFL career, as far as his draft status.
He'll make it up, I think.
He's not going to sit there and say, "Well, cooler heads would have. I wish they would have prevailed."
What's that voice? Your
I don't know,
voice?
but like he just basically said, "I love it." And he was like, "Wish I'd thrown it further. F that guy and F his shoe." Like it's It's great. And then
Yeah.
you have all the SEC fans lose their minds over it. I'm more on board with that instead of some boring cliche like, well, it was a great learning experience for me. So Marco Wilson playing solid football. He was playing solid football until, he's taken out of the lineup because of a couple injuries last year. You look at his last 3 to 5 games, there wasn't a cornerback that was playing better than him on the roster.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And again, they didn't add another cornerback of note in free agency. I think they have confidence he can do the job. And I mean, if Camp's any indication, he's licking his chops at a lot of these quarterbacks Cardinals are throwing out. He's helping himself. And you know who's watching? Monty Ossenford. He's front row. God, it's great to see the GM on the sideline.
He's been there every day at camp, right there on the sideline. I love to just chat with him and ask him what he's looking at.
Get him on the show, maybe.
Out there. Yeah, I'll bother him.
We want to bother all of you to like this video right now. This is our 6 shows of the week. We're not stopping anytime soon. Cardinals are off tomorrow. We're back on Monday to kick off week 2 of training camp with the Arizona Cardinals.
Not doing a show tomorrow?
We're not, no. Yeah, would you like to go live? We've got so much content coming up for you, so much stuff that we can't share just yet, but we're excited in the coming weeks to do so. Maybe the Cardinals sign somebody. Again, this is really the first chance this coaching staff and general manager have a chance to digest what the last 6 days have been like. And after today, I think they have to make some decisions, and we'll be anxious to see who gets implemented, who comes off PUP potentially next week. Again, I'll bang the drum. I think Garrett Williams is closer than people think. We saw BJ Ojulari today. I think he looks good. So what are you laughing at?
Brianna Sambo and the new guy killed it. Later, folks. Brianna, thanks for joining us.
Hey, it's great to be here.
Johnny, great first show, by
thanks,
the way.
Man. Everybody here has been so accommodating here at PHNX. I just love it. I just hate my old job so much. It's great to work with true professionals here. The new guy. Like this video. Please like this video down below. Leave a comment with the player you're most excited seeing with the Arizona Cardinals this year. Put it down there.
What's yours? Is it Colt McCoy or Isaiah Simmons?
Neither. How dare you? It's Paris Johnson Jr. throwing people. I want Paris Johnson Jr. to throw me around. I want to go up there and attempt to block him.
You want him to get like one of those like hipster like baby carriers and have him carry around just a mountain of a man.
Jalen Blair, Johnny, quick rag on Simmons so they know who you are. I mean,
that's probably why Brianna didn't recognize you.
Vonnie,
you were too complimentary. You were asking for grace the other day for good old Isaiah Simmons.
He's practicing.
Vonnie Venerable.
Thank you, Fishbowl Flash. We love it. This has been such a blast. And again, like I want to watch good football, which means I don't want to watch Colt McCoy right now. I want to watch all of you. Go to your app, like this video, go to PHNX_Cardinals wherever you get your podcasts. We drop audio-only podcasts too, so grab it down there. Are we doing Instagram Live for a couple minutes?
Sure, let's do it.
So immediately following the conclusion of this show, which is in about 30 seconds, Bo and I are hopping on the PHNX_Cardinals Instagram Live to answer any question you want to ask. Nothing's off topic. Throw it in there. We'll last as long as you guys do. In the meantime, like and subscribe. Leave us a 5-star wherever you get your podcasts. For Bo Brack, I'm Johnny. We'll see you on Monday.